Molweni. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday with African Xhosa ASMR. So, you already saw the title, and let's get right into today's topic. In South Africa, we have 4 predominant races, and they include black, white. The third race we have in South Africa is Asian. Most Asian South Africans are of Indian descent. Last but not least, we have the 4th and final race, which is colored. In many other countries, the use of the term colored is prohibited as it is considered offensive. But however, this is not the case in South Africa. South Africa uses the term colored to describe mixed race or biracial race. In other countries, being biracial or mixed race isn't considered a race, but in South Africa it is considered a race, referred to as the colored race. Check this out. Now, let us just circle back to the colored race. The term colored is used to describe a person of mixed European white and African black or Asian ancestry. So, if you, for example, have a white parent and a black parent, you are considered colored in South Africa. But in countries like the United States, for example, the term colored is prohibited, and instead you are referred to as mixed race or biracial. But racially speaking, you are considered black. But this isn't the case in South Africa. Being biracial or mixed race is a race all on its own. And if you are biracial or mixed race with a black and white parent, you are not considered black. Let me make a practical example so you can easily understand what I'm talking about. In South Africa, if you are looking for employment, you have to fill in a form referred to as the Z83 form. This form was formulated by the South African government. You have to fill in your personal details in this form, including your race. And you are presented with 4 race options. These include African, white, colored, and Indian. You tick the African box if you are black. You tick the white box if you are white. You tick the colored box if you are biracial or mixed race. And lastly, we have Indian. But however, this is a system used by the South African government. If you are looking for a job in a private sector, for example, they would still require you to state your race at times, most of the time. And you are presented with black instead of African, and then white, colored, and Asian instead of Indian if you're looking for a job in a private sector or something like that. You know, with Black South Africans, for example, we have different tribes. These different tribes have different cultures, practices, customs, religions at times, and there are also stereotypes associated with the different Black tribes of South Africa. The same applies with white South Africans and colored South Africans, and also Indian South Africans. And this sometimes leads to a bit of segregation amongst the different races. And there is a huge gap in terms of wealth amongst all these races. Let me make an example. There are places you can go to in South Africa, and you would know that this place, you're most likely going to find white people, you're most likely going to find black people in this place, and you're most likely to find colored or Indian people in this place. To make an example, if you live in the city of East London in the Eastern Cape province, well, let me say this. In South Africa, there is a city referred to as East London. In Xhosa, we call it eMonti. East London is a South African city. Yes, we also have a South African city called East London. And what's even more interesting is that the main street in this city is referred to as Oxford Street. I made a video about tourist attraction sites in South Africa, and it was a soft-spoken video, and I was walking around East London in that video, and I was showing people different places they could go visit in East London. So if you want to see what East London looks like, you should definitely check out that video. With regards to segregation, when you are in East London, if you go to a place like Scenery Park or Mdantsane, you are most likely going to find black people. But if you go to a place like Parkside, for example, you're most likely going to find colored people of South Africa. And if you go to a place like Tinza or Berea or Beacon Bay, you're most likely going to find white people. Don't get me wrong, you can find people of different races everywhere you go, but chances of you running to a white person in Mdantsane community or Scenery Park are very rare as compared to when you are in Berea or Tinza, for example. So I hope you understand. In South Africa, you're most likely going to find Indian people in the city of Durban in the KwaZulu-Natal province. That's where they're mostly found. But once again, whichever city you can go to, they are Indian people, but most likely in Durban in KwaZulu-Natal province. So now the big question at hand is, you spoke about segregation, you spoke about race. So does racism still exist in South Africa, and to what extent, if yes? Well, to answer your question, racism, yes, still does exist in South Africa. And the severity of it is also governed by where you are residing. To make an example, one might argue that the Free State province as well as the Western Cape province are amongst the most racist provinces in South Africa. One might even add on and state that Cape Town particularly is the most racist city in South Africa. At times this might be subjective, but in most cases, or in some cases, people might say that. Now, I would like to move on to the children of racism, as I like to call them. These include colorism and featureism. Since Africa is a continent mostly dominated by black people, one might assume that the beauty standards would favor black people. But however, this couldn't be further away from the truth. Africans also follow the Eurocentric standards of beauty, whereby having black features, as they call them, such as a big nose, big lips, coarse textured hair, and dark skin is considered not desirable, and these are the features associated with being black. So if you are lacking these features, your blackness is often questioned. And there are people who like to obsess over other people's races. Let me make an example. In South Africa, we have a very popular celebrity called Pearl Thusi. Pearl Thusi constantly has to defend her blackness because of how she looks. The features that she has are considered non-black, or she looks more racially ambiguous. And when she says she's black, people do not believe it one bit, and she claims that she is black. This is what Pearl Thusi looks like. Since Pearl Thusi has loose textured hair and she is light-skinned, and other people call this skin tone yellow bone, and she also doesn't have big lips or anything like that, or a big nose, she is considered racially ambiguous, so she can't be black. And she says, my parents are black and I am black, but people are like, there is no way. She now refers to herself as the Black Pearl. Now she uses black as part of her name. There is another celebrity who is the same skin tone as Pearl Thusi. Her name is Makgotso M. Makgotso is a yellow bone, as they call it, yes. But however, she has coarse textured hair and she also has big lips. These features are associated with being black. This is what Makgotso looks like. Makgotso claims that people would come to her and say that you are so lucky that you are light-skinned, because with the features that you have, if you were dark-skinned, there is no way you would have still been beautiful, implying that her beauty only lies on her skin tone. If she did not have that skin tone, she would have been considered ugly because of the texture of her hair and the size of her lips. Since being light skin is put on a pedestal and associated with being beautiful, there are African people who bleach their skin because they want to be considered beautiful. There is a famous South African celebrity who is open about her skin bleaching journey, and she even went under the knife to quote unquote fix her nose. Her name is Kanye Mbao. This is what Kanye Mbao used to look like. This is what Kanye Mbao looks like now. Other people who do have the Eurocentric features but are still dark skinned are also told that you are beautiful for a dark skinned person, implying that if the person was not dark skinned, they would have been really, really pretty. Or if you are dark skinned, you're not meant to be beautiful because now you are quote unquote beautiful for a dark skinned person. People are being warned constantly about the dangers of bleaching their skin, for example, skin cancer, but people are not listening because unless you are light skinned, you aren't considered beautiful. Or if you have other features besides being light skinned, you are beautiful for a dark skinned person. So that is basically it with regards to colorism and featureism, whereby if you have a slimmer nose, not too big of lips, and I quote, and a lighter skin, you are a lighter skin tone, you are considered beautiful. And I have mentioned this previously in my other Wisdom Wednesday video that you guys haven't seen yet. It's in the playlist down below. I had mentioned that in South Africa, the entertainment industry is super small. And because of this, most TV shows we watch are American TV shows. We also watch American TV stations because there aren't many South African based TV shows. So people from South Africa do keep up with the Kardashians. So I think the bigger lips are now in due to the popularization of them by Kylie Jenner, because before that, or before a person of a different race glamorized them, they weren't considered beautiful on black people. And that's basically what is happening. Now I would like to talk about a personal experience I've had in my life growing up. First of all, I would like to say, maybe if I were to compare my skin tone to someone, I would say it's the same tone as Kerry Washington in this picture particularly. But sometimes when you use lights and you're taking pictures in the sun, you may appear a couple of shades lighter than you really are, right? Growing up, I went to school in this small town and nothing was being said about my skin tone. And I then went to high school. And when I was in high school, I moved to a big city. One time I was coming back from school and I was going to catch a taxi to go back home, right? And as I was walking along the street, there was this person who was making eye contact with me. And this person couldn't break the eye contact. And I was like, what is happening? Kept looking this side, but they were looking at me. And I decided, you know what? Let me look back at this person because I don't know, like, what are they looking at? And we just were in a staring contest at this point. And as he came to me, he said, you would have been way more beautiful if you were a yellow bone. And that was the very first comment I ever received related to my skin tone. And I then went to varsity. And in varsity, there was this guy. He was lighter skinned and he had a friend. Sometimes when I would walk to class, the light-skinned friend would just run up to me and be like, oh my goodness, you are so beautiful. You remind me of Putikomo. You remind me of Putikomo. Putikomo is the former Miss South Africa, and this is what she looks like. And this other day, he was busy doing what he does, and his dark-skinned friend was like, oh my goodness, what is your obsession with this girl? She's not even light skin. Like, I don't understand. Like, why are you busy obsessing over her? Because even if you were to end up with her, you would be messing up your gene pool, because she would make you have darker skinned babies, and that wouldn't be cute. So like, why are you even considering talking to her? Because of her skin tone. So these are the two encounters that I remember in my life, and it's from high school when I went to a big city, and from varsity where I interacted with people from different cities and different backgrounds. But in the small town I grew up in, I never really had any race related comments or any color related comments. And point number 2, when I was in high school, right? High schools in big cities normally start from grade 9, but in the small town where I was, they started from grade 10. So by the time I was moving for high school, I was in grade 10, and other kids started from grade 9, right? What I found to be interesting is that now I was the new kid, or the new, so during lunch time, there would be kids who would come up to me and approach me and say hi, and then start speaking to me in English and say, so which country are you from? And I would say, South Africa. And then they would say, oh, you don't look like you're South African. You look like you're from these upper African countries. You don't look like you're from here in South Africa. And one time there were these two girls who were walking together, and then they came up to me, and as they were approaching me, they were speaking in Xhosa, and they were like, so which country do you think she's from? Which African country do you think she's from? They were busy arguing. And then they eventually approached me and they said, hey, how are you doing? So which African country are you from? And I was like, Dingoalap, I'm South African. And then I started speaking Xhosa with them because they were Xhosa. And the other friend was like, I don't think she is South African. I think maybe she's from Zimbabwe, because even Zimbabwe, they do have Xhosa speaking communities. So I don't think she is South African. And then it was the same case in varsity. In South Africa, we have a couple of other African students from different countries who come to study in South African universities. So when South Africans would approach these students from other African countries, they would speak to them in English, like hi, and then ask them questions in English and ask them stuff. But when they are talking to other South African students, they would use native languages, like languages we use in South Africa, right? But every time they would approach me, they would start speaking in English, and I would start speaking Zulu or Xhosa, and they'd be like, oh my goodness, had no idea. I had no idea you're South African. I thought you were from Upper Africa. And I really found that to be very interesting. But what makes me look like I'm not South African? So there is that experience that I had. So I don't know the term I would use to describe that experience. And I then moved to Japan, right? When I was in Japan, I kid you not, I was walking around campus this other day, and there is this African guy who came up to me. He was like, oh my goodness, you look just like my sister. You look just like her. And I was like, is this guy just trying to create a conversation and whatnot? So he's using the sister excuse. So I was like, interesting. Can I see a picture of your sister? And then he took out his phone and he showed me a picture of his sister. I kid you not, I looked just like his sister. I was like, wow, we look like twins. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And his sister is actually from Senegal, and he's also from Senegal. So I found that to be interesting, that people would always say, you don't look South African. Yes, you do look African, but you look like you're from other African countries, not from South Africa. I'm like, this is interesting, because last time I checked, I was from South Africa in the Eastern Cape. My parents are from South Africa. My parents' parents are from South Africa. My parents' parents are from South Africa in the Eastern Cape. So I find that to be interesting. Is there a term to describe that? I don't know if there is. So those are the encounters that I've had with regards to race, color, and all that. So yeah, that is it for today's video. My camera battery is like flickering, like I'm about to shut down. So I think I should end the video here. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and I also would like you guys to give me topics you would like me to talk about, and I think this will be a monthly thing. Like, I will do it once a month. I don't think I can handle doing it on a weekly basis. I will try doing a Wisdom Wednesday, but just only once a month. I'm so sorry, because there are people who want to see more of those videos, but I think once a month is what I can handle. And do let me know what you would like me to talk about in the next Wisdom Wednesday video. For now, ulale kakuhle, uphole kakuhle, uzole kakuhle, nokuba yintoni nantoni oyenzayo uyenze kakuhle. Mna ndizabona wena kwixesha elizayo. And what that means is good night. Sleep tight, sweet dreams, and whatever it is that you do, I hope that you will flourish. I will see you next time. Bye bye, Vidnan.